Hi, everyone. It's the Catholic CEO, Henry Katarna. Welcome to this Exemplary Catholic Leaders series. My special guest today is Danielle Zuccaro. She is the executive director of the Associates of St. John Bosco. And I know you're going to want to hear about what Danielle does. So, Danielle, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Henry. Great to see you.
Yeah, very, very welcome. We're really glad to speak with you because you're doing such important work. I already know that about your work, so I'm going to ask you a little bit about that. But Danielle, the very first thing that our listeners are very interested in always is what is your faith journey? Where did you come from in the faith, and how is it with you now? And tell us about your faith journey, if you could.
Sure. I was raised in a Catholic home, went to Catholic school and Sunday Mass my whole life. But when I went off to college, in 2012, I went to the University of Mary Washington, which is in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and was deeply impacted by the Catholic campus ministry there. I actually chose the school for the Catholic campus ministry. It was kind of known to be a solid place in a very secular environment. It was a state school, so it's a very secular school, um, and very progressive. So I chose there knowing that I wanted to delve into my faith life more and was very deeply impacted by during my junior and senior year, the new chaplain who was there. The new chaplain ended up being a priest from the diocese. The diocese does a great job of assigning priests to all of the high schools and the colleges in our diocese. So we're very blessed with an abundance of rock solid priests. And so one of those priests deeply impacted me in my faith journey, and he really formed me, took me under his wing, and kind of taught me the faith, many aspects of it that I did not know. So I started leading small groups and mentoring students and leading people in RCIA. I went through RCIA myself just to learn. And so I went through RCIA my junior and senior year and then stayed as a young adult to help the ministry. I was working a 9 to 5, um, and was helping out on the side with that ministry. And really, so I did 8 years of RCIA after, and really deepened in my own faith life, my own prayer life, but then deepened in my call to serve college students specifically. So since I was a college student, I've been serving college students. Um, so it's been about 9 years now since I graduated college. And so basically have devoted my whole young adult life to helping college students, and that's the work I do now.
Excellent. Danielle, what you speak of is it's an interesting thing that if I understand correctly, what you did, you went to a secular university with, a certain kind of a culture, very progressive, like you said, but you went there for the campus ministry. So you deliberately threw yourself into that ocean, you might say, but you had the protection of a great campus ministry.
Right.
Tell more about how did that actually protect you? You said,
Yes.
yeah, you did the RCIA. Was that part of
Yes.
that? It's something else.
Yeah, so I basically dove right in once I was a freshman, and because they had solid priests. The first 2 years was one chaplain, the second 2 years was the chaplain that I got to know a lot more. And really the I guess the formation of the ministry was just like a safe haven, really. The preaching that you would get at Sunday Mass, and um just the integral part that prayer played. I mean, I wasn't I the first 2 years, I was more elementary in my faith, but I still remember having, praying night prayer, for example, and,
Yeah.
going to daily mass once in a while, and they would, even on the chaplain's day off, he would come back and he would do actually from time to time a Latin mass. Um on his day off. So that was when I was very early on. Then the second 2 years when I really got to know the chaplain who had a deep call for serving young people and a devotion to St. John Bosco, whose method he really employed, that was really when I started to learn actually how to pray and actually how to do evangelization. So it was really the just the impact of such a great ministry with really good formation is where I would say that stemmed from.
Very interesting. Can you tell us, how, how do you pray? Just give us a thought on that. And how about this? How do you pray and how do you evangelize? Give us that, and I have some other for you about advice that you're going to give to parents. But how
Yeah.
how should you pray and how should you evangelize?
Well, I mean, personally, I start off my day with a morning, uh, offering. So first thing in the morning, just to get on my knees and offer a morning offering, thanking God for the day. Then immediately personally, I jump in the car, I grab my coffee first, that's important. I
Yes.
and then I head to my church down the road, and I do a holy hour in the morning, so there's adoration at my local church, so I spend an hour there in prayer, and really, I mean, meditation on the scriptures, I do liturgy of the hours, so there's many, many varieties of prayer, but, in RCIA was really where I learned how to teach prayer actually. And so I, taught students how to do praying to the saints, praying the rosary, specifically taught and mentored students in Lectio Divina, so praying with the scriptures. So there's many different aspects of prayer, but I think specifically setting aside that time in the morning specifically to pray and reflect and meditate is a really good thing. And then afterwards, I go to mass at 8:30, and that's where my day begins, basically. So,
That's great. And I asked you that question deliberately because where I'm going next with you is, it's parents and families, they send their kids off to college, and there's a great fear because we all know that many colleges, I wouldn't, maybe I dare say most colleges are, you know, centers of indoctrination. They're secularized and they're full of all of the temptations that are, the worst thing for the Catholic soul. And so parents will ask, what can they do at home to prepare their son or daughter who goes off to college? Now, we're going to talk about your specific work at the associates in a second here, but what you know, what I asked you about prayer because maybe parents could say that to their children, or they could teach that, or so on. So, what advice do you have for parents as they about to send their child off to college, and they're afraid of what's going to happen, and they even are not only afraid, but maybe they're predicting what will actually happen to their son or daughter?
mhm. Yeah. Well, it's a tough question because I think everyone's trying to crack the
Yeah,
code with
yeah,
but there's a
exactly.
few things that are integral. So, of course, everything starts from the foundation of the family, and that's really what I've learned, to appreciate even more is that everything starts in the foundation of the family. So, in really, I use the word infusing the family life with the Catholic faith. So, for example, I see families that are very well formed, very well, well rounded, well formed, who really make the Catholic faith come alive. Um, they make it fun. They make it,
Yes.
not a burden and stuff. But I think there's a few foundational things. One is to maintain fidelity to all the important things. Sunday mass, of course, holy days of obligation, family prayer, but also like doing the extra things. So like maybe one daily mass a week, the whole family goes or, weekly, well, maybe not weekly because that can be a lot, but like bi-weekly or monthly confession where the whole family goes.
Yes.
Um, so there's different aspects of making it a foundational thing, but also infusing it into the family. And I know families, for example, that this one family comes to mind. 10 kids. They have, every time I I go over there, all the kids, they wear their scapulars, very prominently and stuff. But then not only that, the 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 names of the pets, okay, are Linus and Cletus.
I thought
So it's names of the popes. So it's
the
like,
second and third pope.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, that's what I mean by infused. It's like, that's just a sort of a silly example, but like the faith it's the fabric of their family, you know? It is
Yeah,
so natural that they name their pets after the popes.
yeah, I
So,
love it. Great.
so those are just some foundational things. And then, we can talk about college specifically. I mean, there's many things to do as you head off to college. But I think once the foundation is laid, you really have to trust that the foundation has been, that children have been brought up with a good foundation. I think that's very, very key.
Yeah, and that foundation, I mean, I'll speculate with you that, and I know you'll tell us about the associates in a moment here, but when the foundation is laid, if a child, if a young person strays or gets tempted off the faith or stops practicing for a period of time, that conscience, I imagine, is clearly at work and pricking their conscience, as they used to say, bringing them possibly back to. And so that foundation is so important. I guess I'm just repeating what you said, but
Right.
I like that concept.
Yes, exactly. And I think we can talk about college here in a minute, but like I think there's a danger in, you know, I think parents need to be aware of what's on the college campus because yes, there can be that foundation, but sometimes there's so many temptations that the conscience sometimes I feel like can become, shall we say, like numb sometimes. So we always have to keep like, refining and planting seeds in the children because yes, because the conscience definitely is at work. But sometimes because of the college campus, it's so now like progressive and stuff, and there's so many temptations. The students can oftentimes, what I see, they become like it's like a tidal wave on campus, and it's like they can get pummeled the first week of school. So, but the foundation is very key because I do believe that there's a lot of grace that students and children can come back. So there is that hope. There's always that hope. But I do think that the college campus there's certain dangers that parents need to be aware of, but I think there's also solutions that can be employed to, uh, to kind of navigate those dangers on campus.
Well, and that's exactly where we come now to the Associates of St. John Bosco. You are part of the solution set in at least in your archdiocese, your diocese now. What does the Associates of John Bosco do, and how does it all work?
So we were founded by that priest who was a chaplain at my college. He had
Yes.
3 years prior started our organization, and basically saw that there was a gap between high school faith formation, Catholic school in high school, or Catholic youth ministry in college. So students were going off to college who are Catholic and falling completely through the cracks. They either did not know that Catholic campus ministry existed, or they did not know how to find it, or they didn't choose a college because the Catholic faith was somewhat strong there. People were just going off to college. And hence, the statistic is that over 80%, possibly closer to 90% is what we might estimate, of Catholic students leave the Catholic Church by the time they graduate college. And so, what we do is we do a variety of things. First, we have a scholarship program, which invests money into students who seek to serve the church specifically after college. So if it's not need or academic based, it's specifically, are you working towards steps to either fulfill, your call in the religious life or as a priest, Or are you going to become a missionary or a Catholic school teacher, for example? So like different paths that serve the church. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is our college night program. And our college nights basically take place the summer between high school graduation and college move-in here in our Diocese of Arlington. And basically, we network students to Catholic campus ministries. The college nights are put on by young adults. I'm the MC, but I'm the oldest one there. And so it's all young people. They lead talks. So we have a panel of student speakers.
Yes.
We have small groups where students get to then go into small groups based on campus. So if you're
Yes.
going to any of the Virginia schools and even out of state schools, we have many, many out of state schools. We put you in small groups that are based on campus so that you're getting to meet not only the other freshmen who are there at the college night, but then also the upperclassmen who are leaders on those
Yes.
campuses who are actively living out their Catholic faith. So it's sort of a multi-pronged approach. And then we send them off once they finish the college night, which is a 2-hour event, kind of like a youth group night. It's a fun, engaging night. But we send them off with a Bosco bundle, which is
Mm.
a pack of books and resources and sacramentals to take with them to the dorm room. So it's very tangible. We give them the Bible, the Catechism, Introduction to the Devout Life by St. Francis de Sales.
Yeah,
We give
excellent.
them a
Mm.
Catholic relationships book. We give them a holy water bottle and a desk crucifix because oftentimes these are things that are forgotten when you're packing your bags to move in. You
Sure.
forget sometimes the sacramentals or you forget your little library of important books. So we give them a specific little package that we give them. And if they choose, they can actually take a second Bosco bundle to give away to someone as a means of
Oh,
evangelization on
yeah.
campus.
Mhm.
So all of that programming is free of charge for the students because we always want to pass on the faith, which was freely given to us. And so we freely give to them. And then we fundraise on the side in order to make that all free for them. So basically we have various other programs as well. That's kind of what I say is the entry point into our organization is the college nights or the scholarships. And then from there, we have formation programs that students can get involved in. We have a parent program, which prepares parents for how to navigate the college
Mhm.
situation. And we have a high school program that takes place in the high schools here in the diocese. So
So
many
much,
different things.
yeah, many different things, so much good being done. What advice do you have? We asked a minute ago about parents, but what advice would you actually have for the college age student who is, serious about their faith enough at home with the family? What would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, a couple things. A couple practicals come to my mind. When you're touring a campus, you absolutely need to visit the Catholic campus ministry. That's absolutely essential. I would evaluate a school based on the Catholic presence on campus. And I mean, yes, the major is important. Yes, the cost is important. But I really truly believe that where your faith will flourish is a very vital aspect of choosing a college. And there are actually many good ones out there. Yes, of course, there are very solid Catholic ones, but there are actually some very solid secular ones too. Um, you just have to be aware that you're getting yourself into, you know, a secular environment where the faith may not be upheld. But if you have a strong support system in the Catholic center, you can actually thrive. Um, so there are some good ones out there. And then I would say, you know, so the tours is one thing. Um, and then trying to the roommate situation is another very important thing, which is how do you find a Catholic roommate? And um a lot of Catholic campus ministries they have Facebook groups or I mean, I think some people might do it through Instagram these days. I'm familiar with Instagram, but I don't know how you find a roommate through Instagram, but I think some people do. Um, so so there might be that option as well. But if you can get plugged into the Catholic Campus Ministry and meet people at the center when you're on your tour, then you might be able to get plugged into a good Facebook group or group chat of some sort to find a Catholic roommate, before you or as you make your decision. So those are a couple key practicals because boy, the roommate situation, if you have a solid roommate, it can make all the difference. And if you don't have a solid roommate, it can make all the difference.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm remembering, I'll tell you a brief story. My son, he went off to a big secular university. He went to engineering school, and so I wasn't that worried about, you know, uh, progressive ideology in an engineering school because it's largely mathematics and physics based. But when I dropped him off, I still remember this day vividly, and we talk about it since then. He's graduated, of course, and he's in the workforce, but uh, he had a good foundation in the faith, absolutely. But when we went to the campus and I dropped him off, I remember that same afternoon after he moved in, I took him over to the rectory of the parish that I knew he would be going to, and it was a traditional Latin Mass parish, which is what we attend. And I introduced him to the priest. We knocked on the rectory door. Now, I had this prearranged, but I knocked on the rectory door and I introduced my son. And I'm telling you that so struck him that I would say that is partly responsible for the fact that he's faithful Catholic to this day, because he met all these other young people at that parish and started to go there right away. So he had almost had no chance to fall in with the wrong crowd. Anyway, it's a
right.
story. I really I like your ideas about speaking to the roommate situation, or at least the influencers that are around you, the people you hang out with. That's
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think that the other thing to stress is that you can't, as a parent, as a student, I can't stress how important the first week is. So as soon as your child arrives on campus, they really need to attend the first Sunday mass right off the bat at the campus ministry because
yeah,
or the parish that's attached, whatever it is. But because if they don't, the statistic drop, I mean, it dramatically increases or decreases their chances for getting involved later on in the year. Of course, they should attend the Sunday mass because it's an obligation, of course. But besides that, if they don't go and get plugged in, then the statistic is, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, but that they really the rate at which they will potentially exit the church is a lot higher. So, um, so in getting plugged in because they're going to meet the new people there at that point anyway. And, these campuses have massive, fall outreach campaigns and stuff like that where they're trying to get freshmen and new people. So, so that's like the key time to go.
it is.
Uh,
Yeah, I can
so
certainly I can certainly understand that because it's that myriad of all these pressures and influences and all the signals and the signs, all that newness, and then if you
yes,
forget about that one thing, you get sucked into all the others. I guess is
yes, yes, yes.
like.
Mhm.
Well, Danielle, there's so much more we could talk about, and I know our time is so limited today in this interview. Obviously, you're doing good work, but you need help. And I know that, let me guess, you need money and you need other support. So you need our prayers. How can people support your work, and how can we support and do good for you so that you can then multiply what you're doing uh, on into the future and to many other campuses? What can be done here? Where do we find?
Yeah, so you can find our work at asjb.org, so Associates of St. John Bosco, but it's asjb.org. And we are currently local to Northern Virginia, so the Diocese of Arlington. Um, I don't know if that will, broaden beyond that scope at a certain point, but for now, but you can always reach me if you have specific questions, reach me through that website because I'd love to chat with you. And but our students go off to last year, for example, they went off to 61 colleges around the country. So our reach is wide, though our influence is somewhat narrow here in the diocese. But yes, I mean, financial support is great, prayers are great. Specifically that God would send us, more college students to serve. We're trying to always reach as many students as possible in our area, and that we would have supporters who believe in this mission and see the great need for it, specifically to target those students before they head off to college, right in that crucial summer. So prayers and support would be wonderful. And the website again is asjb.org.
And you can make a donation on the website. Is that correct?
That's right.
Last thing I forgot to ask you this, and let's do it right now. Why St. John Bosco? I think people might know that, but tell us about who he is and what.
Yeah. So, if you could see my desk above me, his image is right above me. So he blesses the work, hopefully, or he intercedes for the work. So basically, our founder has huge devotion to Saint John Bosco and the way he worked with young people. So he would basically, you know, he would form the street boys basically in Turin, and you know kids who were into trouble and stuff like that, but he would form them in the practice of the faith and give them practicals to do, and they would also learn specific jobs to do, like blacksmithing or masonry work or whatever. And we use his method in the work that we do. He had a three-pronged approach called the preventative method, which is the three-pronged approach is reason, religion, and kindness. And so we try to model his work with that three-pronged approach in all that we do. So in fact, for example, we're having a Christmas party in just a week, and our whole Christmas party with nearly 50 students and stuff, it's going to be a fun time, is starting with a holy half an hour of prayer and adoration.
That's great.
So
I love it.
so it's foundational to the work that we do is religion. You can't remove one leg of the stool, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's why St. John Bosco, he's a powerful intercessor. And a very interesting fact is that we got 501c3 nonprofit status on his feast day, January 31st,
There you go.
2013. So
Listen,
there you go.
what a great signal from on high for that. I love
That's exactly right.
it. Well, Danielle, may God bless your work. I mean, it's so important, it's so valuable, and we can only wish you the best. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.